Hi guys, thank you so much for liking my page. It is a brand new page and hopefully it's going to grow and we're going to see each other grow. So that sounds really cliche. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I wanted to do a little bit of a story about my last post, which was about when I was in a coma twice. And it's something that is quite traumatic for me, so I wanted to go over it and explain it to you guys. So I've been in and out of the hospital for about a month before this happened, and multiple attempts to end my life. And I remember going into the hospital in the ambulance after I took these tablets, and I remember my legs were really rigid, and it was so painful. Like, I could not explain the pain. And the paramedic, I remember, he had seen me before multiple times, and he looked at me and he said to the guy at the front, he said, I'm gonna have to call this in. And he called like resus, which is the red phone, and basically, you know, it went from there really downhill. I remember going into A&E, and I could barely walk from the trolley from the ambulance to the bed in A&E. And they put me into majors at first because I could walk. I wasn't too bad, but I was getting worse by the minute. And I remember they came and they tried to take bloods and cannulas and all of the usual stuff, ECGs, etc. And I remember one consultant who had seen me the night before, and she said, I'm really worried. And I was in and out of consciousness at this point. I was being sick. I couldn't put my head up. Everything was spinning around me. And they rushed me into resus. And the ICU doctors came. And I remember just throwing up. I felt like I'd thrown up my whole stomach content. It was horrendous. And I was in and out of it. I wasn't really sure what was going on. And the ICU doctor came and there was a whole massive bunch of people around me. And I wasn't really sure what was going on, but they said, we're going to put you under. And at that point, I didn't really understand because I was in and out of consciousness. And I knew they had inserted the general anaesthetic because it burned, and I had a cesarean 2 years beforehand, and it burned as well, so I knew that they would put me under. When I woke up, it was 24 hours later, and I slightly remember them taking a tube out, but I sort of don't. I was very sedated. My levels were very high of this particular medication that I took. Please don't ask what I took in the comments because I'm not going to say what I took because that is triggering. For other people, not for me, but for other people. So I was in ICU. I had a central line here. I still have a scar from it, which is, yeah, not nice. It's a constant reminder. And the doctor came round and he said, do you know how lucky you are? And I sort of looked at him, I was like, I'm in the intensive care unit because I tried to kill myself. And you're asking me how lucky I am. Don't think he really got it. But he said it was touch and go for 24 hours, whether I was going to make it or not. And they kept me in the ICU for a while, and then I decided to self-discharge because, heck, I didn't want to be there. So I was like, you know what, I'll self-discharge. So I self-discharged. Mental health team did not want to know what was going on. They did not care at that point, to be honest. And I didn't care. I didn't want to engage with the mental health team because, quite frankly, I'd had enough of them. So 2 or 3 days later passed, and I took the same medication, and I ended up in A&E again. And I was left in majors for 4 hours, in and out of consciousness, and I was twitching, I was throwing up, I was drooling everywhere, and this consultant came up to me and he said, stop being so childish and act like an adult. And he said this because I was drooling and because I couldn't move properly. I was twitching everywhere. And he said to me, grow up and act like an adult. And I was just thinking, like, what is going on? I'm in and out of consciousness here. And I remember the anaesthetist came down, and I remember them shouting at the consultant, and they said, get her to resusc right now. And within 10 minutes, they had put me under. And this was the most traumatic time, because when I woke up, I still had a breathing tube down my throat, and it was breathing for me. But they had eased the sedation off, so I knew what was going on. And the first thing I wanted to write things down. So I sort of said, because I couldn't talk because I had the tube out my mouth. And I said to the nurse, I was like, doing that. So I wanted to write something. And I think the first thing I said was, I want to ring my mum. And then I said, how long have I been out for? And because I didn't know at this point, I took more than what I had for the previous time. And I had the breathing tube in there for about 2 hours while I was only on mild sedation, and then they eased the sedation off like completely, and they removed the tube, and oh my gosh, it was so painful. And I know that's my own fault. Before anyone starts going on in the comments like it's your own fault, you put yourself there, I know, but it was so painful and it is very traumatic. I still think back to that time, and it's bloody traumatic, okay? And I don't care what anyone says, unless you've been in that situation, you do not know what it's like. And mental health team still didn't want to know. They didn't even come and see me. But that's another story for another day. But I thought I'd just briefly explain, why I was in a coma. Because I think a lot of people might ask what it was like. I don't remember. I didn't see the light. I didn't see anything like that. It was literally just, I went to sleep and I woke up. So yeah, that's it really. Not a nice experience, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.